Okay, thanks very much. And now we go to...
Ms. Beck and Ms. Tilson, you were talking about some of this. This is something I followed for a while, the plain packaging. I mean, again, I know this is about cannabis, but we have a precedent already, which is why I'm talking about tobacco and plain packaging, because we want to know how this will affect, what effect this might have on the upcoming legislation. I was glad to hear you and yourself, Dr. Hammond, as well, corroborating the effect of the plain packaging laws in Australia. I've heard much of the same information. I've also read much of the misinformation about it and how heavily promoted that this misinformation is. Now, are you familiar with groups, I believe it's the Canadian Alliance Against Contraband Tobacco? Yes. National Coalition Against it, yes. Are you, have you heard the allegations that much of their activity is lobbying, in fact, for the tobacco industry? Would you agree that their activities have been that?
Absolutely. In fact, we brought with us today a presentation from Imperial Tobacco to its parent company, British American Tobacco, talking about the contraband market in Canada and the campaign that they've waged for many years, ostensibly to get contraband under control, but as the presentation reveals, it was really, it's been an ongoing public relations exercise to convince lawmakers and the public that contraband is out of control. And why I bring this up in answer to your question is because the presentation makes clear that their partners, Imperial Tobacco's partners in this campaign to deceive lawmakers, are the convenience stores associations, the Canadian and their Western Atlantic and Ontario counterparts, as well as the National Coalition Against Contraband Tobacco. The tobacco companies in Canada and around the world repeatedly raise the bugaboo of contraband in response to any discussion of a tobacco control intervention. They claimed that when we were talking about display bans, in fact, the then head of the Canadian Convenience Stores Association in around 2010, 2011, was going around the world, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, saying that the display bans had caused the contraband problem in Canada, which of course they had nothing to do with. We have display bans across the country. We have a contraband problem in Ontario and Quebec where there's illegal manufacturing on reserves that is not being adequately enforced or addressed by enforcement.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Hammond, you look like you were nodding in agreement on this, or did you have anything else to add, or just agreement?
Well, look, I mean, I testify in court cases. I'm no stranger to the tobacco companies and their activities, but I must admit, this past week I have been alarmed by the extent to which the tobacco companies have been infiltrating this discussion, and I'll just leave it at that.
Albert, thank you.
I want to make it very clear.
I actually have a question for you, sir.
Okay, good,
and then you make your comment after I ask this question.
I'm not here because of them, so just so we're clear.
No, I want to make sure. No, but I have yes, but I have a question for you, and then you can make this comment, sir.
It's crazy.
Okay, this is a story from the Globe and Mail, dated April 2017. Mm-hmm. It says, and I'm quoting, the CCSA has financial ties to tobacco companies and has faced recent criticism for working with at least one major tobacco company to promote industry interests. It then goes on to say, last fall, Imperial Tobacco documents made public by non-smoking advocacy groups indicate the company worked with CCSA on cross-country campaigns to promote the industry's interests, including lower tobacco taxes and focusing attention on the problem of contraband tobacco. CCSA members include Imperial Tobacco, JTA McDonald Corporation, Rothmans, and Benson Hedges. So my question for you, for the record, does the CCSA lobby for the interests of the tobacco industry? Yes or no?
I would say that we lobby for the interests of convenience store retailers.
Okay, so you deny that you lobby for tobacco companies?
We lobby for every one of our members, and I don't appreciate that we're being tailored to one product and one product only. So let's just be clear on something.
I'm not saying that you don't do any others. I'm saying on regards to this industry. Do you lobby for this industry among your activities?
But we don't lobby for them. We lobby for ourselves because you have to understand our business. I don't think people have any understanding of what a convenience store is in this country or what we do or any of that. So
No, I'm not talking about what convenience stores do. I'm
you
talking
are
about,
because you're saying that the only reason that I'm here today having a conversation about plain packaging is because I want to do it for the benefit of big tobacco. You need to understand something. They have nothing to gain from marijuana or from cannabis or any of that. They're not even in that business anywhere in the world. They have nothing to gain from this. We have nothing to gain from marijuana because we're under the perception that it's probably going to be sold by government agencies across the country.
No, I understand
all that
that.
I want to say is give you, just let me finish. All I want to say is I want to give you input on the experience that we have. Me personally have worked in a convenience store for over 30 years, selling tobacco, the experiences that I've had, the big power walls that they used to call with all the colors behind us and all of that and people walking in. Listen, I'll tell you, I have never had an individual that was a non-smoker walk into any of my stores and see a pretty orange package and say, oh my God, I think I'm going to start smoking
I'm going to
today.
have to cut you off. I'm going to have to cut you off because I'm running out of time. I have just one more point to make. And the reason I bring this in is exactly what Dr. Hammond said, and why this has to be brought up is how much the tobacco companies have infiltrated through themselves and through their lobby groups this discussion on Bill C-45.
I think it's entirely up to this government to make that decision and where they're going to go. I just think, based on the experience that we have of selling another combustible product, which we have worked with many government agencies over the years on how we can do a better job at that, at keeping it out of the hands of youth. You walk into a convenience store today, do you see any tobacco? No. You can't see it. It's not visible to anybody that walks into a store. When you walk into a liquor store, do you see liquor? Yes, it's very visible, okay? So I think we've taken huge strides over the years to keep it out of the way of youth and to keep it out of the hands of youth. I will just say, though, that is because that was legislated, and I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, that completes our first round.